Joining us right now, Liz McDonald, Ashton Webster, James Freeman, Scott Martin. Want to start with the drama at the G7 between Trump and Trudeau. Scott, what's the impact, if any, on the markets?
Well, so far, not much, Charles. Now, there's probably going to be some fallout here. The question is what happens in the next few days and weeks as this tiff, let's say, gets worked out. But as you guys have talked about on the show so far today, which I think is correct, the markets are getting used to the Trumpisms and the Trump way and some of this tariff talk, both from the U.S., from China, now from Canada, towards Mexico. So the markets are taking a lot of this in stride and realizing that a lot of these are opening salvos. We may be in the middle innings when it comes to trade deals with some certain countries, but the final product is still yet to be seen.
But at some point, James, we do need some resolution on these things. I mean, President Trump is gone where no president has gone before, in part because presidents in the past probably were intimidated by the fact that can you get it done? It's gone on so long. It's like the Gordian knot to even mess with it. You talk about it here and there, but you never take these actions. He's in there deep enough that we must get some sort of resolution.
As far as trade or
trade.
North Korea, yeah, I think I mean, market's kind of shrugging off his comments. But I think the real market upside is an agreement that moves toward lower tariffs and lower trade restrictions around the world. I understand the skepticism given his comments to date, and I know it looks like a lot of chaos, and obviously markets have not liked at all his steel and aluminum tariffs. But if he actually got a deal to open markets around the world, huge upside for markets.
Think about this, Ashley. Canada, when America got out of TPP, they jumped in and they took advantage of the situation. Trudeau held it hostage, and he put in a lot of protectionism under the guise of cultural industries, using the word cultural. That's what they do. They protect dairy. They protect beef.
Yes.
It's fine when they do it. It's not fine when we do it. I think President Trump now has them in a bind in the sense that, hey, what if we remove all tariffs?
Right. Call their bluff, so to speak. My point is, and the same with the EU, why would they want to change anything? It's a great deal for them. Their tariffs are much higher than ours in return. President Trump is exactly right. You cannot let this go on. And Canada has taken advantage. And I know President Trump uses the dairy number, the milk number, 270%. He's absolutely right. He's not making that up.
And you know what? There's still silence on Trump's proposition to have a G7 free tariff zone. The EU inside itself is a free tariff zone and no barriers. Still no reaction to that.
I mean, the bottom line, it feels like, we're still in that sort of post-World War II mentality where America helped rebuild the world, whether it was the Marshall Plan or everything else. NATO. And it feels like, hey, it's about time we get out of this. You guys have strong functioning economies. We're competing. We're friends, but we should have a more level playing field.
We should.
Look, we're running, according to the U.S. government, we're running a trade surplus with Canada. Now,
according to Canada, they're running a surplus with us.
Which is weird. That's true.
However you count it, we're sending them more than $300 billion worth of stuff. They're sending us more than $300 billion worth of stuff. It's a good relationship. It could be improved. But I think what the president ought to focus on is rallying the G7 crowd to work together on China. Because if you want to talk about how the United States is really being mistreated by a trading partner, that's the one. Europe and Canada, really a different category. We both have restrictions. The tariffs are not that high either way.
All right, let's talk about North Korea. James, how will this market react? I mean, I think you mentioned earlier in the show, you're looking for something big. I think you're looking for something much bigger at this particular meeting than the rest of the world. Let's say they just come out of this with a framework that includes a scheduled meeting, a schedule of agreements that say, we understand what the goal is, we both agree on what the term denuclearization is, and we're ready both to keep moving this process along. Our emissaries will meet 2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
I think the market doing something like that.
I think that's a lot. I don't think the market is going to react. I mean, the market's going to go up if there's signs that some danger has been reduced marginally. But the long term, I think that's a loss for the U.S. because the president has put on new sanctions. He seems to, it's difficult to tell, but it looks like he's gotten some cooperation from China. You've had over the last year more pressure on the North Koreans. I don't think it makes sense to relieve that pressure and really to give this dictator running a small country this kind of platform unless you get something real on this business.
It's sort of, I'm sorry. Let me, Scott, real quick, though, before I move on to the next topic, your thoughts on this, because it's like the mouse at Ward. It's a tiny country, but they got a pretty big weapon or weapons.
Right.
Yeah, they do, Charles. And it kind of speaks to how things are possibly going to work out with China, too, which is one of their best friends over there. So, don't forget that China's probably giving them some advice with respect to how they've dealt with the U.S. and what they should do going forward. So how things work out with NOCO, I think, pertains to how our relationship with China is, which obviously is a big trading partner of ours, something that we need to improve upon on both sides. So to me, this is more of an opening idea as to how things work out with China more than it does with NOCO itself.
Last Thursday, China's finance minister said they do not want to escalate this, and reiterating that $70 billion offer. Yes. I think it goes higher. One thing I want to talk about this market, guys, and bring to everyone's attention, because we talk a lot about technology, but retail and consumer staple stocks have been absolutely crushing it. Scott, in the last 3 months, the XRT, which is your pure brick and mortar index, up 9%. Your technology index is up 1.7%. Most people will be shocked to hear that. What do you make of it? Are we starting to see perhaps all of that consumer enthusiasm manifest itself into reality?
It's probably the fact, Charles, that XRT prior to that period was down pretty considerably versus tech. So you're getting a natural rotation, my guess is, amongst S&P 500 industries, and that's okay. We talked a lot about this with Stuart, in the last several months about how bad retail was getting, that it was starting to look good. Nobody was wanting to buy retail. All the estimates were coming down. Earnings reports were absolutely terrible. So it just seems likely that there was likely some bottom picking here. But I still like tech, the Apples, the Netflix, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsoft, the Facebooks, all of those we own for ourselves and our clients, because those are really where your earning power is going forward, and still what I feel are relatively appropriate valuations.
All right. By the way, some of these brick and mortar names up 100% from their 52-week low. I want to get a quick check at the big board. We've been trading for 8 minutes now. Dow picking up a little bit of steam, up 41 points. This is how it's been. It's been very quiet, not a lot of fanfare. Everything else is sucking up all the oxygen out of the room. 99% of the time it has zero to do with U.S. economics or fundamentals, and I think this is the way smart investors love it. Rally this market when no one's looking. Now, of course, everyone's always looking at big tech. Let's take a quick look at some of these names. You can see them on your screen right now. Amazon, according to S&P, is more of a consumer discretionary name, along with Netflix. But Apple, they're all relatively unchanged or slightly higher. Let's check oil. We had a little bit of a bounce last week, late on Friday, but it's come down a lot. So what does that mean for your average price of regular gas? Not much. We're still near that $3 level. $2.92 is your average regular. In fact, 14 states in the D.C. District of Columbia are still in that $3 club. That's where states average, of course, $3 per gallon. The Pope, meanwhile, hosts oil executives, and he warns them that climate change could destroy civilization. EMAC, is it getting too political?
Well, he's said this for a while, that climate change, temperatures going up, poverty is an issue. He wants clean energy. I'm looking at the lists of the oil and gas execs who were there. Notice who was not there. Russia's Gazprom or Rosneft or Middle Eastern oil companies. So this is the same problem that you see the world over. Who's not showing up? Maybe not invited, but if you're going to put out this message, we've got ExxonMobil, BP at this meeting. The Pope saying it's a moral issue. I'm just intrigued by who wasn't there.
Yeah.
He also forgets how many products come from petroleum, all the candles that are lit at the Vatican, the tires on the Pope Mobile. Yeah. It goes on and on and on. I think he needs to stick to what he was supposed to do and keep out of politics.
Well, he's a different Pope, that's for sure. Hey, want to take a look at Facebook? The Wall Street Journal reporting that it gave some companies special access to additional data about users' friends. Scott, another privacy headache for Facebook. It feels like a daily occurrence, I've kind of joked that they may change the stock symbol from FB to F something else, but, they just don't even seem to care anymore these days.
Yeah, maybe F off. I don't know, Charles. What's funny is they probably don't really care. That's what's interesting, though. Facebook keeps doing this, and you're right. Given that we have the U.S. Open coming up, where Maria's going to be, I guess, in a few days, it's kind of par for the course, isn't it? The only thing that I'm sad about today is that I thought Facebook was maybe going to drop on this news, based on what the New York Times reported. It's not. So if you do get a pullback on any of this privacy breach and stuff like that at Facebook, I'd go ahead and pick up some more shares.
Face plant.
Okay, that's a good one. Better than what I was thinking. All right, hey, James, Scott, thank you both very, very much. Always appreciate it.